Hello and welcome to another wonderful episode of RPA Master's Intelligent Automation Showcase. I'm your featured host, Derek Gerber, and today's sponsor is Directive Consulting. Directive Consulting is the trusted performance marketing agency for software and technology companies. Visit directiveconsulting.com today to get started. Let's jump into the show. We have Dave, who is the American Director of PowerPlatform, the Global Black Belt team. Welcome to the show, Dave. Wonderful to have you here. Thanks for joining us from Microsoft.
Yeah, my pleasure. Nice to be here.
All right. Well, hey, I think that we have an exciting agenda here today. Sounds like you're going to show us some of the amazing capabilities of the Power Automate platform. I believe that we're going to be jumping into some process mining, a new Copilot feature that you're going to demonstrate, and then also generative AI capabilities that you'd love the audience to know about. So if you're ready, let's jump into us and show us what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, awesome. So let's do this. I'll go ahead and just share this. And I use this really as a frame for everything that we do in the world of automation. And the Power Platform at Microsoft is extremely broad. It's wide. It's also deep. And we do everything from low-code applications to low-code chatbots, generative AI, low-code websites, everything in between. But specifically in the vein of automation, we actually handle a ton of different capabilities. And yes, we'll focus today on just a few of these. We don't have time to go through all of them. But our strategy really here is that hyper-automation or automation at scale is going to involve the orchestrated use of multiple technologies. You're never just going to solve a problem or identify a problem really by using a single dimension. And so for us, this is really a broad conversation. I hope just to give you a quick taste today.
That's fantastic. And so we know that already from on the show, we've had all different types of AI come to the show. Classical, predictive, and generative is most popular lately, of course. So we're definitely excited to jump in and see where we can apply some of these ideas today and then get inspired for our next projects.
Yeah, AI is obviously the most exciting thing in the space right now. And for us, we're actually applying that in a couple of different ways. And specifically for automation, one of the really interesting ways that AI is making an impact on the market is helping us scale who can automate. And that's because traditionally automation has been in the hands of automation experts, and we absolutely want to use AI to help them do their jobs even better. But we believe automation should be accessible to everyone. And so you'll see a couple of examples where we can take generative AI and put it in the hands of a citizen developer or just somebody who's a subject matter expert. And let them get value out of cloud native, AI-based automation right from the start, just simply using a natural language prompt, but then also for every other walk of life to give them some way to apply automation to their everyday roles.
Okay, and we all know that from work to home to play and everywhere in between, AI is being applied. And there are so many different, quickly evolving technologies and platforms that sometimes it can be hard to glue them all together. So that's what I'm excited about here today is how do we use that path forward to bring all these technologies together to support one common cause? And that's what I'm loving today.
Yeah, so let me do this. I'm going to jump in and really kind of start at the beginning. When we look at any type of process optimization journey, hopefully this is familiar to a lot of people on the screen, the DMAX cycle, where we're looking at just a typical journey around solving and optimizing a problem, where we have to first kind of define our business challenges and goals, and then quickly measure what's happening. And what you'll see today is we talk about what we call Power Automate process mining. We want to help ingest data from all the different systems that we have to use on a day-to-day basis, and then turn to analysis where we'll look for insights, try to find bottlenecks, and then ultimately deliver some type of solution. And without giving away the ending here, clearly we're going to have some options to do that. You see on the screen. But then this isn't a single point in time. It's not even just a single directional line. This is a loop for a reason because there's continuous improvement and monitoring that goes into all of this. So I'll say this. We've got a lot of tooling, a lot of different little logos and icons around the screen. I'd love to just dive in and show you how we chain all of this together to provide value.
That's fantastic. And for the audience, you're all familiar with the concept of the flywheel. And Dave and I, just before the show, we're going on and on about how we're going to automate the automations and drive this automation flywheel for you. So perfect graphic for the screen. Everyone take your screenshot now because we're going to jump into the good stuff here next.
All right, great. So this is what we're going to do is when we start, and I'm going to a little bit hand wave over the define the business challenges and goals, because hopefully everyone's got something in mind for a process that they'd like to improve. And those processes, we know, they span across multiple systems. And in most cases, there's a ton of rich information that's stored in the logs, in the audits for all of those systems. And so what we're doing here in Power Automate is going through and ingesting data using a very easy to use interface. This is what we call Power Query. If you've used Power BI or some of our analytics tools, you've probably seen this in the past. So ability to connect to the data where it lives today. In this case, we're connecting to some SAP data and we're joining it with some HR data. And so we're going into multiple systems, we're defining our connections, and then we've got a chance really to transform this data here. Now, you may already have a process where you're doing ETL and something, maybe you're using Azure or some other technologies, that's fine. If you're not doing it yet, though, this is a great serverless way to do ETL on your data. So we're doing some quick joins here to pull together data from different systems and start to get a consolidated view of all the activities that are happening, in this case, for an invoice approval process. So we've got this data mapped. Now what we need to do is bring it into a format where we can do process mining. So there are some table stakes we have to meet. We have to have a unique identifier across these disparate systems. So we know that an invoice, as it flows from one system to the next, we can track it. We also need to know when these events are starting and ending, what resources you're using, like what users might be involved in those steps, and then any other attributes that you want to bring in that might add additional dimensions to that data and to that process. But once we've done that, out the other end, we use Power BI, class leading business intelligence and analytics, to give you a quick view, an overview of what this process looks like. It's really hard to see right now, and I promise you we're gonna dive in and take a look at this in a little bit more detail. But know that you don't have to go reinvent analytics, and dashboarding for this. It's all built in, and then we can continue to make optimizations if we need. All of that said, though, and you can see I've kind of switched to Copilot. That's kind of complicated if you've never done this before. And so one of the things we're doing is, hey, how can we take generative AI and add this to a process mining experience so that I don't have to be an expert in order to find this. So our Copilot's loaded here on the right side of the screen, and we finally zoomed in so you can see. But you can start asking questions around, show me the top insights. What am I seeing in this process? I can see right away the longest running activity and the bottleneck is the requisition approval. It's got a couple of other elements here to tell me what's being repeated the most. So depending on what it is I'm trying to do, am I trying to solve rework? Am I trying to shorten the duration? I can go and ask for additional insights. So if I want to go in and even ask it, hey, let's address my bottleneck, it can give me recommendations. Now, the Power Platform I alluded to earlier, it's broad. We have low-code applications, world-class in Power Apps. We got world-class digital process automation and robotic process automation in Power Automate, and we can use any combination of those to go and help solve this problem. And so here it's giving me recommendations for going and creating, in this case, maybe a digital process automation flow using APIs and cloud native integration here to go through and create notifications so that my users get notified when there's an invoice that needs approval faster. And let's do it through Teams. So very quickly, we can go from identifying a bottleneck or an issue right to solving it all in the same solution boundary, all really inside of the same browser window. And so we can move much faster around that flywheel and make it spin, even faster and further.
That is fantastic. And coming from a world of ECM and intelligent document automation and processing, it's a mouthful. Wow, we just built this in a couple seconds, guys. And, if you come from the industry, these things often took 6 months, 9 months to do at this level and scalability. And here we are again using AI to get it done in a couple minutes. We're going to keep doing it here on RPA Master, but I got to tell you, this is exciting to see, Dave. It's also really just promising for the future. If we can automate and create efficiencies that can save millions of dollars per year, or thousands of man hours or people hours, most accurately, within a year in just a couple seconds, imagine what we can do in the next 5 years. So I love this. And again, if you're not inspired in the audience, this is an everyday process you can get started with that we all need to do right now and today. So don't make any mistakes. It's not a barrier. We just did it right here. So I'm digging this, Dave. And now, so Dave, when it comes into finding these processes and procedures and that workflow mapping you had on the other screen, can you tell me more about how that works? How does it actually go in and discover all those different connections so that I can inspire myself today to go build out more automation projects?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things at play. And in fact, I'm going to go switch over here to an even more complex process that we can see. And I've got some sample data here. This is insurance sample data, of course. But if you've ever been involved in an auto accident and you've had to go through a claims process, you've probably felt the complexity of this diagram right here. So once we've ingested this process data, and again, it could come from a number of different systems, you actually have a ton of controls that you can use to help understand what's going on. And while Copilot is fantastic and exciting, there will be things that you want to do deliberately on your own. And so like in this case here, the first thing I want to be able to do is really reduce the number of paths to simplify really what's happening and understand just at a core level, what are the primary steps in this process? And so now I'm feeling a little bit less stressed already that I can see that there's an approachable number of steps in this process. And then I can start to look through different metrics. And so, for instance, the total count, I can see how many individual claims are flowing through each step in this process. You can see there's highlighting going on to tell me where the center of mass is, but maybe I want to look at durations instead. Where am I spending the most time? Even go into things like rework count. And so then I can understand, okay, calculating amounts, we're doing that over and over again. That could be ripe for automation there. Or even looking at custom metrics, like how automated is a step? You can define your own metrics, and I did one here, and you can see that we'll calculate amount. Not only was there the most rework, but I already automated that step, 90% automated. Maybe it's broken, right? And kind of gives us some insight as to where to spend our valuable time. So I've got a lot here, but also you can really gain a great understanding of this process, because like in this case here, what I might want to do is go through and just look at my top variants, like 18% of all cases. That's the most common case. They get rejected, closed, pretty simple process. But as you go further and further through and add more and more variants, you start to see where the complexity grows. So just as somebody who maybe works in tech, to be able to take data like this and help me become more of a subject matter expert in how these processes unfold is incredible, but also to help me do comparison, root cause analysis. And I'll just show very briefly, an example here where I built a filter to show me just examples where these claims, in this case, were confirmed. So coverage is confirmed here. That's great. Maybe I want to compare the process to when the coverage is rejected, and what does that look like? And so I can come in here very quickly, get highly visual indicators on every time we reject a request here, I see that we're requesting a police report, and that's unique to the coverage rejected phase, but we're not requesting a police report when we confirm coverage. So, maybe we're confirming coverage too often. Maybe we should be requesting a police report. So all sorts of ways to get incredible insights out of a process that otherwise, if it spans across 3 or 4 systems, we never really would have a way of seeing it. And now just, without being a Six Sigma black belt expert, I can very quickly get smart on what this process does. And as somebody who's then going to go and automate this, I have an incredible amount of confidence that what I'm doing is going to have an impact.
Fantastic. And again, we've shared on the show here, Dave, many times, but you can automate the wrong thing 18,000 times with the wrong click. Not that I've ever done that before and had to fix it, but I can tell you that I would feel much more confident if I had something like this in my hands, helping me guide through and understand these things instead of trying to map it out on a whiteboard across 20 different departments. Those things happen every day. And that's the point of the show, is to inspire those next steps. So just in terms of what you had said there, are there other industries of where you're seeing this immediately make an impact right now that's some of your favorites?
Well, I'll say this: there are broad cases really that cut across all industries. Things like, invoice payments, accounts receivable, accounts payable, procure to pay, order to cash. Like these types of enterprise-wide process are usually ripe for automation or at least improvement. But then also, industry-specific cases. I mean, certainly claims for auto insurance and casualty insurance. Also, same thing for life insurance, health insurance. I mean, all of these big complex processes that, again, the key elements are they're going to span multiple systems. It's going to be big and complicated. And there's a need to simplify and really understand what we're doing before we invest. And that's really what this is giving you, is it's transparency into the process, and it's confidence that what you're doing is going to have an impact. And then, of course, because this integrates with Power BI and I've got the metrics on it, you continue to monitor this process. So later, when the world inevitably changes and something happens or breaks or a new law is passed, you can see in real time the impact on this process and then go back and continually improve. And that's what this is all about, is improving through that flywheel.
Yeah, and again, for the audience, if you're going to continue to evolve your own intelligent automation game and using these AI technologies coupled together, you have to have a common platform that can bridge the gap, help you continue to discover new opportunities, and then easily automate those opportunities within just a couple seconds. And so, tying it back to where we started with this episode, is we were looking at that flywheel. So, we're really playing into this concept of building out that automation flywheel, not only to solve today's problems, but to solve the problems in the next 5, 10, and 15 years with platforms that can scale. So that's what I'm seeing right now in terms of like getting the system in and making it simple. How easy is it for me to get started using this Copilot technology here?
Yeah, well, and speaking of copilots, we absolutely not want to just apply it to when we're using process mining, but broadly in our everyday lives. I wanted to show a couple of examples of our what we call our Power Automate Copilot, which whether we end up using it as a result of an insight that we gain from process mining, or we just simply have an idea and want to get started right away, front and center on the homepage for powerautomate.com, you will see this describe in detail how you want your automation to work. This has been a game changer for beginners and pros alike. I build tons of workflows in Power Automate every day, as you probably expect. And this tool by far is the largest gain in productivity I've had. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to describe in detail how I want my automation to work. And I've got this idea where when my boss sends me an email, check if today is Saturday, and if it is, delete the email. And so I can just simply give it this prompt, and it's going to measure my intent out of here. And then no, we're not going to publish this in production, but just to show off, simply from that statement, it already inferred that I want to have a trigger for my automation when a new email arrives in Outlook. It's going to get my profile, get my manager's profile. It's going to run a couple conditions, which we'll look at here in a minute, and then it deletes the email. So just from that one prompt, it generally has an idea of what we need to do. We do have a thumbs down. So if you are trying this and it doesn't work, please let us know. We monitor these very closely. But the metrics are showing us that whether you're an advanced maker or a beginner, 80% of users who use this feature are 80% more likely to have a working flow on the first case than otherwise building it manually. So we'll create our connections. What we're going to see right out of the gate is this workflow has come to life in our authoring canvas. I can go click on any of these and just double check what they're doing, and they're pulling my profile, my manager's profile. What's really interesting about this, though, is while I'm perfectly capable of building workflows in Power Automate, there are certain things like this condition here where just zoom in here, you can see the day of week UTC now is equal to 6. That type of expression, while certainly documented online, would have taken me a few minutes to go dig out, find, test. Probably would have gotten it wrong the first time, but Copilot's got my back. And with just that single prompt, it was able to add that in there. And the Copilot persists. So it's not done, and it knows I'm not done. And so I can keep asking it to do additional things. Like in this case, maybe, instead of checking if today's Saturday, check if it's Saturday or Sunday. And I can give it that adjustment. It'll go through, and it's going to show me in real time what it's going to do. So rather than it being a black box, I'll have transparency through the window. So hopefully when it comes back, it's going to tell me that, yeah, I figured out what to do. I changed this condition. Quick note, like it's really good at doing this. It's not good at naming things. I suppose Microsoft isn't either in general, but like in this case, condition 2.2 now has an additional filter on it to say day of week, 6 or 7. And so it can interpret my intent, build this flow, and I can be off and running here in a minute. And so the combination of Copilot plus our connectors and being able to interpret our intent, I've now got a working workflow here, no infrastructure required, based on APIs, super resilient, ready to run and automate my inbox.
That is just amazing to me. And I'm already going to go squish all the naysayers right now. Like, oh, I did this before. Drag and drop workflow. Like, we all know you've done this Zapier integrations and things like that. But we just went from text to generated workflow and in production capable outcome right here on the fly. And I think that's highly impressive, Dave. Again, avoiding all the different ins and outs of trying to connect all these systems manually, trying to set it up to test. I can't believe that we're already here and we're already doing this on the fly. And there's so many elements to where we can utilize the same capability across your everyday life.
Yeah, and I'll say this, what we showed there was an instance of what we call digital process automation, right? So cloud native based on, our SaaS services, no infrastructure required. A lot of the people watching this probably still also have to build robotic process automation. That needs not going away. And I don't want you to feel left out that, hey, I want some generative AI in the RPA world. And so I wanted to show this quick example here where, we have Power Automate Desktop. It's our robotic process automation. experience. I've got this up here, and I wanted to scrape some data off of the United Airlines website. And so I'm going to use our typical recorder to go through and do this. And of course, if you like to author these manually, you've got that option too. But like in this case here, we're taking all the data about the aircraft and the fleet, and we're pulling that in. But you notice on the website, it gives me the wingspan in feet and inches. I'd like to go ahead and translate that into metric. So instead of writing an expression to go and parse that data out and do it myself, what we're going to do instead is insert a generative AI prompt using Azure OpenAI service. And so just like we would use ChatGPT to do something, I can use enterprise ready Azure OpenAI so that the prompt is private inside of my tenant. We're not sharing the data anywhere else. I can use it for enterprise use cases. And what I'm telling it to do is take the aircraft model name and the cruise speed in miles per hour, and I want to change it to kilometers per hour and the wingspan in meters. And again, like I have a software development background. I could probably try and do this over the course of a couple of hours and have to go grab something off of GitHub. But instead, let's just write this in natural language. Let's apply the data that we just scraped off of that website, and let's go ahead and just take the output and we'll dump it to a CSV just to keep things simple. And just like that, in 4 steps, I now have an RPA bot that can go to whatever website we've got or legacy application we need, process this, run that prompt in the cloud, get the response back, and then here we're going to populate the CSV file out the other end and have all that data coming through. So really game changing when it comes to how we work with unstructured data in this case. Making it incredibly simple to get really accurate results. And so it's not about like maybe reimagining everything that we do and replacing it entirely with AI. It's being able to layer that in and like surround all of our existing capabilities with this agility layer of generative AI. So hopefully this is exciting too.
This is amazing and fantastic work you're doing here. And we know that this is the cusp of innovation and not all the ideas have been had yet. And I think that's exactly what we're exploring here today as we work to inspire everyone in the audience. But for everyone watching this, it doesn't get much more flexible or easy than this. So I got to tell you, Dave, you got any more tricks up your sleeve to show us today? Because I am very excited about everything you're showing us here.
Well, I'll say this, what we've seen so far is really what we're doing in the space of automation. And the Power Platform is so much bigger than just that. And I would argue that anybody here today who's working in automation, very quickly, you're going to need some analytics, or you're going to decide that, hey, I might need a chatbot or a human in the middle where I need a user experience to be a part of that. And so I would urge you to explore the rest of the Power Platform because each one of these tools has corresponding co-pilots, AI features, plus just generally world-class, leading capabilities across each of their categories. And it's so big that, in fact, we have a big event coming up here in October. It's going to be over 5,000 people so far have registered for this conference in Vegas, where we're going to have our entire engineering team, abilities to dive deep and get hands-on with all of these different capabilities, meet and network with other passionate makers throughout the community, and really just share stories and connect. So there's a lot more out there. I could spend hours that neither of us probably have to go through it all, but I would love to hear your stories, your questions, and really engage on how low code, hyper automation, process mining, and everything in between can have a huge impact on everyone here.
Dave, this has been fantastic. And I know from the audience, thank you so much for letting us steal some of your time today so you can come on here and show us this amazing technology and then also invite us to this exciting event. What do you recommend for the audience if they want to get their hands on this technology today? Is it best to go to the website?
Yeah, so learn.microsoft.com is an incredible resource. We've got not only just detailed articles, but also self-guided training, hands-on labs that you can do, even sample data that you can pull in. So some of these things that you saw today with like process mining or Copilot, we can get you started right away. We have a great developer plan that lets you, without having to spend any money, just get your hands on and really start learning. And so, yeah, can't wait to see what everyone here builds.
Well, Dave, I got to say, we really appreciate you being here on the show. And again, thank you for being such a fantastic guest here today and showing us all this exciting Microsoft technology. Really appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks, Derek. Appreciate it.
All right. And for the rest of the audience, thank you again for watching another wonderful episode of RPA Master's Intelligent Automation Showcase. We had an exciting episode here today where we talked about generative AI. And again, keep focusing on building out that automation efficient in your power wheel and the flywheel and all the different things that we've discussed today that drive synchronicity across your organization and drive value every single day. So I've been your featured host, Derek Gerber. Today's sponsor has been Directive Consulting. And please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. And we'll see you on another episode in the future of RPA Masters Intelligent Automation Showcase. Thanks and have a great day.